Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, special guest Craig LaForest from Sydney, Australia. You can call into the show live and ask a question or get involved at 800-313-9443 or listen at 605-313-0163. Are we all set? Do we have Craig? Okay. All right, good. While we're waiting, Targeted Justice will hold its first annual peaceful protest in Washington, D.C. from the 22nd to the 24th of September. And that is if COVID cooperates. Okay, Craig, I understand you are on the air.
I am. Good evening, Frank, and good evening to all your listeners. It's 12 noon here in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, I was so worried that I was going to keep you up or something like that. Well, that's great. You're just about finished with your lunch then.
Yes, just prior to lunch, so it's good timing. Perfect timing for me. It's a beautiful day here in Sydney.
Okay, that's fantastic. Where would you like to start? Now, I'm a victim of RNM and V2K myself. And I don't know, it's a terrible thing that haunts you every day, every hour that you are awake. And God only knows what happens when you are sleeping. And that's the part that we all should put on a tape recorder to find out if, in fact, they are getting you to talk in your sleep or relay information in some way we're not familiar. So I'm going to give the floor to you. If you'd like to have me join in, just stop for 3 seconds, and I'll join right in.
All right, thanks very much, Frank. You're correct. V2K technology is one of the most torturous and abusive pieces of equipment which is being used around the world. I've had V2K for approximately 25 years. I lived in Los Angeles up until 2011 from 1983, and I returned to Sydney in 2011. I was aware that I was hearing voices subliminally, and I was aware that I was also being burnt on my skin. I literally can feel the pressure in my head. I've had MRIs, CAT scans, and X-rays to try and locate where the implants in my head are. But I go through torture every single day, as do hundreds of thousands of people around the world with different governments. And it is absolutely the most disgusting thing imaginable. I live on probably 4 hours sleep at night time. I'm bombarded with the voices during the day, and the more that I speak out about it, the more I am attacked. I returned to Sydney, as I said. Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to let you know that Dave Voight, someone that I supported in his walk across the country, his first one, and he is here at your request. And come on, David.
Hi, this is Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, David.
Hi there.
Thanks for calling
in,
mate. Thank you. Good. Thanks for calling in as I requested. Good on you. Well, David, would you like to make some comments? I've just, from a victim's standpoint, I've given a little bit of background as to what I've gone through for the last 25 years. So I'll pass the floor over to you, and then, Frank, you can come back to me, or whichever way you prefer to go.
Oh, it's fine. It's great the way it's going. It's just fine. Go ahead.
I just want to say hi. I'm Dave Voight. I'm a former naval officer. I'm a 2005 graduate of the United States Naval Academy. I have a degree in control systems engineering. I worked in electronics warfare and nuclear engineering as a surface warfare officer. While I was in the service, I learned of this program. It's a non-consensual human targeting program. It's a psychological warfare program and a successor to the MK Ultra program. I tried to get myself into the program because I knew a little bit about it, but not, the specific details, in the hopes that if I were targeted, I could learn kind of all their moves and then hopefully find the victims groups and then try to get them organized and get this message out to the public. So like Frank had said, I did a cross-country walk to do my initial awareness on this issue in 2016. And then probably a year later, the U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China started getting attacked with the same sorts of weapons. There's a large population here in the United States, at least, almost 10,000, probably more that have come through the support groups. And then internationally, there are tens of thousands of victims at least that are within the support groups who can be counted. Then there's even more who just aren't aware of what's happening to them. They attribute the attack to something else. Just got a call from Craig tonight. I've known him for a while, and just want to call in and lend some support to the topic.
He is quite a gentleman.
David is a gentleman. He certainly is. He's a great guy. We've been friends now for some time. We met on Facebook, and we've spoken about this at length. And I've supported Dave also during his cross-country walks, and he does a lot of extra work as well behind the scenes that people wouldn't know for cancer. And I've done the same thing. I've been involved with brain cancer children and respite children and children. I've fostered children at my home here in Sydney. And this is unfortunately, the V2K is one of the greatest restrictions on my life. And we all love life. We absolutely want to live the best way possible and give back. I support so many causes, and it's frustrating that somebody has implanted us. We don't know who the scientists are or the surgeons are behind this, but I can literally, as I was just mentioning before, I can literally feel the pulse of the voices when I put my fingers behind my ear. I'm a member of an organization called ICATOR, ICATOR.be. The founder of that is a lady by the name of, and probably friends of both of yours as well, Melanie Vishan. And Melanie has gone through hell with V2K also over in Belgium, as do many people in Europe. And she successfully found out that she had been implanted in her throat, and they took the implant out, and now she is suing as a war crime what she has gone through. She is going to the High Court in Europe to sue against this war crime. It's outrageous that people, non-consensual people, are literally going into doctor's surgeries or into a dentist's office and may have anesthetic, and they come out with the first stage of an implant, and I understand that's what's happened with me. I've had several visits to doctors, and I know that's how it's happened. That's the only way it can possibly happen. The MK Ultra program that David was alluding to earlier on is also one of the most disgusting programs that was brought about by the US during the Cold War, where people were followed home or drugged and implanted, and as a result of that, monitored throughout the world. So I just want to reach out to all the viewers, those who may not understand what the V2K technology is about, and just apprise you on what is happening around the world. I did an interview also in October of 2019 with Ramola Damaraj and it's on YouTube. If anybody wants to listen to what we go through as V2K victims, the abuse, the torture, and I'll pass it over to you, Dave, at the moment. You have a little bit of history with what you've gone through in the past as well.
Oh, Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so my background was military. I heard about this while I was in the military. Specifically, someone had mentioned that there was a way to take control of someone inside their own home. And I kind of followed up with it. That sounds like a felony. You can't, military officers can't be involved in something like that. And the response I got was, well, I can't, it's a classified program. I can't tell you anything about it. And from my perspective, you've just admitted to a felony crime. First of all, the military has no business acting on U.S. soil. And but as you have obligations as a military officer, you can't ask about that or tell about it. But I did know that this happens in the public sphere, and we just learned about this type of attack with the Harvey Weinstein case, where he was found to have hired former Mossad agents to stalk and collect information on about 90 of the people on his list that he was keeping track of. Several of them that had sexual harassment or sexual assault allegations against them. So the public has been made aware of these type of tactics, along with the revelations about the Church of Scientology. They've done a great deal of movie making on this with what's the guy's name? Alex Gibney's Scientology in the Prison of Belief, and then Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath. They discuss in great detail the Scientologists' fair game organized intimidation, stalking, and harassment program. It's the exact sort of thing that targeted individuals go through.
David.
Additionally, with the U.S. diplomats in Cuba, that's another great example that people can look at. There was a 60 Minutes piece on some of the victims that described in identical terms what TIs have been complaining about for years. So there's plenty of information out there for people to review.
Yeah, it's absolutely discussing what innocent people are going through. It's all very well to go in and have a procedure in a hospital or in a dentist chair and trust the person who is working on you. But to come out with this in your brain is absolutely one of the worst things imaginable. It's hell to live with, and as I said, we all love life. It's a good point that you made, David, about the entertainment industry. As I mentioned when I was on Frank's show a couple of weeks ago, when Midge Mathis was on, I lived in Los Angeles with James Cameron, the scientist, film director of Terminator and Avatar, and I lived in their compound for 4 to 5 months in Malibu, and I saw when we went up to an organization, a brain technology organization in Seattle, Washington called ILABS, ILABS, the transmission of thoughts from a child onto a TV screen. It was outrageous that a child had been used in the first part to even show.
And you can see that, there's a guy named Professor Jack Gallant out of UC Berkeley does the same thing. You can just get on YouTube
Absolutely
and watch
outrageous. And I sat there and I was outraged by what was happening, but at the same time I turned to listen to James Cameron, who said to the people who run iLabs, he said, "Oh, look, I know about all of this. I don't need to see any more of this." It was incredible, and I've been trying to get in touch with Jim and his wife Suze over this whole issue. And Susie reminded me when I got back into Malibu, when I flew back into Malibu, and went back to the compound, that she said Jim has been very heavily involved in this. And I've reached out to James Cameron many times, by phone and by email, to just ask him to contact me. And I'm at the point now, I'm just so frustrated and tortured with this that I just name people. And I think it's because I'm naming people that I'm getting a lot more torture every single day. It doesn't take much to pick up a phone and be a man and to contact me over this very important issue. And this is just, I'm putting myself out there. I've gone, as David did, I've gone and put myself out there to psychiatrists just to start the foundation of this investigation. And I wanted to go to a psychiatrist and say, please test me and tell me well, if you think I'm delusional or if I have psychosis, no, of course, they've come back and said I don't have any at all. I live a really highly respected life. I travel the world. I have V2K in every latitude and longitude around the world. I'm fortunate enough to be able to cruise quite a lot. I have it in planes as well, but it can literally knock me off my feet when it happens. So I just reach out to people who are the scientists behind this and the surgeons and say, enough is enough. We don't need this in our lives. If you want to test this, you have to be open about it. You have to. The United States has a history of doing this to innocent victims. During the start of the Cold War, they tested radiation on people in hospitals, and people came out with burns, and they weren't advised that radiation was being tested on them. And in October of 1995, President Clinton came out and apologized after an enormous investigation, an incredible investigation about what had happened to these poor people, and apologized, and they were heavily compensated.
Okay, Craig, I had a question. Can you get a film clip of this ILAB operation? Is there any way that you can get anything from them?
I don't know if they videoed us while we were up there, but I can certainly approach them. Whether it's a secure part of their information that they don't like to divulge, because we went up there just as Avatar was being launched. So I can certainly approach them and ask them about this, and if it could be possibly passed along to me, and I'm very happy to share anything. I'm totally transparent about this technology. So I can certainly contact them and ask if they're able to pass me some of this information.
Now,
pass me a video.
I was curious as to what stage you were in. Now, the stage that I'm in is totally mind games, insertions of ideas that aren't mine, and I can visually, or I can actually feel the thoughts and know that they're not mine. Yep. And they are trying to make me believe.
It's so obvious, as human beings, we're able to delineate between our own thoughts and something which is passed through via satellite. And I can very clearly see images. I see videos. We're literally hooked up to computers. And I get very clear videos, which have been doctored a little bit, if you will, and photos as well, reminders about things I have to do in the future. And I can, thank God we have our own brain. I can delineate between my own thought and their thought very, very, very simply.
I have personally decided not to watch them. I don't watch them.
Yeah.
And my theory behind this is, if I'm watching it, I'm being further entrained. And I just wanted to address something else. Is in terms of ILAB, we have games on the market. Okay, we have to go to commercial, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This is going to be great.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Good evening, Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, we have special guest Craig LaForest from Sydney, Australia. And we have David Voight. All of you know David from his cross-country walks and endeavors to spread the word about targeting. Okay, who did we leave off with? We left off with me, but I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this over to Craig once again, and you guys can go back and forth. You're doing quite well. Richard, I haven't forgotten about you. We have Richard from North Carolina on the line. He might want to ask you guys a question. So go ahead, Craig.
Certainly. Thanks, Frank. I just wanted to reiterate, this is one of the greatest torturous pieces of technology which has been invented. We need to find a president who stops this. I know this was created many years ago. As I mentioned, I've had it for at least 25 years. But the frustrating part of this is we have hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are simply going through this torture as well and abuse. We have 400,000 cases in China. The international newspaper founded in New York, the Epoch Times, recently talked about 400,000 Chinese people who have V2K. There are numerous people around the world, in Spain, in France, in South Africa, if people want to do the research. There is so much information out there if you simply Google V2K technology one-on-one. So many sites you can visit. And I think it's about time that a president stepped up and investigated this thoroughly, because too many citizens are being hurt throughout the United States. We have it now in Australia. I have some very good friends down here who are going through the hell that we all go through with this technology. And that's the most important part that I would like to pass along to people today. Life is a precious privilege. We're here to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greats from the past, stated that, and that is a simple process for us. We just want to live and enjoy life, be able to give back. So I have offered in the past, US $1 million for someone to step up and talk about who is behind this, who are the main people, the surgeons, the scientists behind this. And that offer is out there for $1 million. And I hope through this process we can save so many people around the world who are going through this torture. Over to you, Dave, my mate.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to put a plug in for Stephen Kinzer's book for some of the historical information on this topic. He's a popular journalist, and he just wrote a historical biopic on Sidney Gottlieb, who was the CIA's lead on the MK-Ultra program. It's very good. He goes into much more color and detail than I've heard from the community. It's well-sourced, and if you're on Audible, if you have a subscription to Audible or any audiobook publisher, I'd check that out. It's Stephen Kinzer's Poisoner in Chief. I'm about halfway through the book. But yeah, the reward is a huge thing. I actually started a website based on that reward. There are people who know about this who have been bystanders in some of the stalking. And if those folks could be made aware that this is a legitimate offer out there, we would get leads that would lead right to the source of this program, just like Sidney Gottlieb was found out, and this Stephen Kinzer has written a book about him. The scientists and surgeons who are involved in this program, they can be found out too. And some that are associates or co-workers with these people, they don't want to be associated with this type of crime. So they would be willing to speak up and provide tips. So from the community, this is a problem that can be solved with advertising. If we were to get together and pool our resources and hire a professional firm to do some advertising for us, we can get results on this issue.
Thank you. Thanks for supporting that, David. I stand by my commitment to that. I've been offering this for the last 2 years on Facebook, and unfortunately I've only had people who have come in and said, look, I believe this person is behind it, this person is behind it, with no concrete proof at all. And God bless them. A lot of these people are really hurting and suffering and trying to do the very best they can in focusing on who they believe is behind this situation. My brother is an anesthesiologist and partnered with James Cameron in this program. I reached out to him and said, listen, this is what's going on with many people with V2K. Get involved and do something to...
We are at the bottom of the hour. Station identification. We'll be back in a few minutes with Craig LaForest.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease-Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease-Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease-Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease-Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Good evening. It's Ken from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, very special guest, Craig LaForest from Sydney, Australia, and David Voight. Craig, I'd like to bring Richard from North Carolina on. He has questions.
Certainly.
Go ahead, Richard.
Hi, guys. First of all, I would like to say that we had a meaningful and heartful Memorial Day and that you guys are assets for sure to the community. We do appreciate you, David, and also, and you've been around a long time. Both of you guys have, 25 years. Mr. LaForest is a long time to be targeted for sure. I just wanted to comment that you're absolutely right. We are being hooked to a supercomputer that is beyond all testing. The capabilities are even unthought of at this point, and it's called the human mind and central nervous system. Those things are being experimented and tested as we go along. We can't leave out the experimentation and testing that they're doing as they've done in the past, which has already been mentioned. And, well, I went about things and tested things a lot of different ways. I found out a lot of different information. Would love to, share my number with you guys through Frank. To have a conversation with you guys personally. I've tried to get in touch with Mr. Voight many, many times, but, well, all the little pieces mean a little something to what's happening, and somewhere along the way we were missing some big pages that were, well, not read yet, and that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for coming on, guys, and take care.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
That's really sweet. Thank you.
Craig, we have Craig and David. We have Brent from Dallas, Texas. Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, contrary to the other caller, I will ask a question. Craig, David, and Frank, right?
Correct.
Frank, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. I have a question as to the implant technology of the current, quote, shot, heard around the world that may be required. Do you think any of you gentlemen discuss it perhaps and come up with an answer, but do you think there's a possibility that implant would have the same capabilities as a chip? I'll get off the line and listen to what your answer is, okay?
Thank you very much, Brent.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Craig. David?
I think if you take all the elements that I go through on a day-to-day basis, as does Frank, with the thoughts, the images which come into our brains, I was originally very suspicious of this when I realized that I'd been implanted. I was told that I was going to be involved in as a politician because I love life, I love meeting people, I host a lot of fundraising parties, etc., etc. And I think if you look at this, you break down all the elements of these implants. In Sweden now, they're implanting people in their hands to literally pass that in front of a monitor to be able to get entrance into a door. I think that this has the capability of eventually, if it's not stopped, people are going to become anything but human beings. It is, in my reference point, and obviously in what you've gone and said, Frank, also, I can get directives, I can get direction through the thoughts which are being transmitted into my brain, and I am able to delineate very clearly, thank God, between what is something which is not my own thought. And I'm trying to simplify this as best as I can for everybody. But it's a wicked process in that when I'm sleeping at nighttime, I have a transmission. My head literally starts to go through a shrill, and it seems to expand. I can hear a cracking as my head seems to expand. The frustrating thing is with a lot of us who are non-consensual victims is that the implants cannot be found through MRIs, CAT scans, and X-rays. After a while, the implant looks like part of the skull. We have bone calcification or spurs which grow over the implant. I think mine's a broader one in that I think there's a lot of under-the-table payments being made through governments to keep this very protected for the creators of this. And again, I reach out to James Cameron and say, Jim, I've been trying to get in touch with you so many times. I have seen the thought process. Here's a person who's called in now on this line and asked about the problems that we may all go through in the future. We have seen several things. I've lived with you in your compound. I have been there when, quote unquote, the Russians attacked, and we had to hide ourselves in the house. You're a gentleman who has gone through a lot in your life. They couldn't keep up with you at school. They couldn't write science books fast enough. We have here a young man who's just called in and has a great question, and I can only say from a victim of this that this is the most destructive technology which could happen to anybody. It's torn my family apart. I have members of my family who won't talk to me. Just to use that as an example, it's just wrong. It's simply wrong. If it's a case of ego and wealth, we learn, we know that is not the fundamental part, the foundation of why we are here on Earth. We are here to do the best that we can and to give back.
Very good. I have people all over the country and all over the world that I get emails and phone calls from, including the United Arab Emirates. And I was really blown away by that. But I have a woman down south and I believe she's in South Carolina. And she has 6 children. And she calls me in the middle of the night and just says, "Can you help me? I can't do this any longer." And I know I've been at that point myself, and it tears me up because they're working on her children now, and I cannot say that I have the answer right here.
Yep.
All I can tell her is that I will be here anytime you want me, and that's the way it's always been since the beginning. I have 508.
Bless you, Frank. Yeah, you're wonderful to do this. We are all here to help people who are going through this. I'm bombarded with the questions on Facebook from people, and also after I did the report with Ramola Damaraj back in October, and whoever is behind this has gone out and taken people from all realms of life. Some people from the street, I honestly believe, have just been used as and tested as guinea pigs. And then you have other people who can provide the developers of this technology with an opportunity to go out into the world. And I was traveling so much throughout the world during the early stages of being implanted, and I've traveled so much and I've seen so much. And as a result of this, they're still not happy. They bombard all of us with torture and abuse. It's a continuum. And I can only say that it's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable to hear of a lady like this with children. I've had many people here in Australia who look back and say, I've had these thoughts as well. They're not my own thoughts, I can tell. And these are people who come from respectable backgrounds and in very high positions in business. It's outrageous. You know, America should have learned from the Cold War period when they were doing radiation testing on their victims, and through World War II, prior to World War II. It's outrageous that people are being used. How dare you? How dare you do this?
That's exactly what Midge Mathis says. How dare you do this? And she has been through a living hell with this, and she fights. The woman fights.
She's a brilliant
lady. She continues
she's a brilliant
to fight.
Lady. She's, as I said, she's one of my heroines in this process. But to hear the story of this woman it just makes me furious. I'm able to compose myself through most of life, but this is the one thing which I think is just outrageous. Outrageous.
Craig, we have a caller, Anonymous from North Carolina. Go ahead, Anonymous.
Hi, how are you, Craig?
Good, thank you.
That's good. My question is this. In 25 years, maybe during the course of your life, as you like to look back on it, do you ever feel like you're allowed to or you're not allowed to sort of meet normal people? Like even like love interest, like a girlfriend, or even something simply as a friend. Now, can you differentiate between associates in life? You know, like we all come across people in our everyday life, but this targeting seems to put a sense of detachment in between you and the quote-unquote real world. Like, were you ever allowed anything with what you might consider organic or natural, like in your relationships with others? What's that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really great question. All I can say, mate, is that, yeah, no, that's a great question. All I can say is I can very easily now, again, delineate between a directive or some direction that I'm supposed to follow, between that and my own thoughts. So, yes, what happens is, I think part of this process is a lot of people have been drugged. This is what happened with the MK Ultra program. People were drugged and followed to their homes, and the targeting continued. And I see that widespread throughout our community. It's an enormous community of people who are affected by this. And yes, I agree with you totally. We can meet somebody, and I can literally hear something inside me say, "Oh, this person, I don't know." I also, I'm one of those cases which where the implants have also happened through my eyes. So anything is transmitted from my eyes as well. I can be sitting down typing an email, and a voice said, "Look, there's a better word to use than this word," and I've never heard of the word before. And I research the word, and I look it up, and it's a much better word. I can't prove this, and that's the unfortunate part of what we all go through in this community. I can't prove it, but I have also transmission through my eyes.
Yes, as do I. We have Brent from Dallas. He needs to clarify something about his comment.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
Brent go ahead.
Yes, I apologize. Let me clarify my question. I was really seeking this COVID-19. COVID-19 scenario. It's not an inoculation. It's an implant. It's a nanotech implant. Do you think it's possible that it could have the same result as the type of implants you're having? In other words, we were the test, or whoever was the test for these implants. But now they know how it operates. Do you think that this implant that they're going to have in the form of an inoculation or vaccination or whatever you wanted to say, do you think it could actually do the same kind of things, technically? And I thought that maybe David would like to get in on that.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. If your listeners want to go to YouTube and search Dr. James Giordano, West Point, it will say exactly that. The man has a background in this industry. He works on the classified side of these projects. He's one of those doctors that Craig was talking about who has this information, and he says exactly that in that lecture. So you could, any of your listeners can go right now to YouTube and check that information out.
Good answer. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you. Thank you very much. We also have Gregory from California would like to ask you a question, Greg.
Yes, man, I've got quite a few questions, actually. Do you guys ground yourself? Hello?
There are so many... Yes,
I do not.
There are so many...
I do not.
No, I don't ground myself. There are many, let's call them opportunities that people put out there to ground oneself or to go into certain caves and go underground to protect oneself, to wear the aluminum paper and so forth around the heads. I found that none of these work at all. I can be in a plane. I can be in a plane and have the V2K very, very easily hurt. I can be up in the North Pole. I've been down to Antarctica 5 times, and I have it down there as well, and it can literally just take me off my feet. So I think the grounding part of this, depending on what you've been implanted with, it does not work. And back to the question, which is in line also with what you're saying, the implants these days are so tiny. You've got to look at them under a microscope. They're smaller than a grain of rice. And if these, I believe in consensual injections, you must be able to decide for yourself. I don't believe a country can dictate what goes into your body. When I was going through school in the 50s, we would line up and have injections, and we never questioned it. But I think today, with all this new technology, we have to be more open and really research. And I applaud the husbands and wives who are really doing the investigative work on what is going into their children.
Oh, definitely. That's a plus. I wish my folks had done the same thing. My son only got one shot, and he didn't get his you know what whacked off, because that's torture. I mean, we're tortured before we even know that we're supposed to be free, and that's one of the amendments of the Constitution and all that happy poopy. What about Wilhelm Reich? Have you ever done any study on Oregon?
I haven't, no. I haven't.
The poor man was killed in prison because the federal government said that there's no such thing as Oregon. Go away. And then we have the... you want to know who's responsible for all the torture and poopy that we're living in? I mean, all we got to do is just see the ones that are out in the open right now. And they've been out in the open forever, really, which is,
Thank
you know,
you.
like the Rockefellers, the Gates, and all the other nefarious Rothschilds. And that's why I like to call the currency that we're currently coerced into using.
I can only relate it to what I've been through in my life with the people that I've met who are in high positions. And that's how I can relate my situation. That's the only way I can relate my situation. I met many high-powered people when I was living in Los Angeles. James Cameron was one of the biggest, and just the fact that he will not now return my calls or get in touch with me, and the increase in the torture and abuse I go through with these implants may be indicative of what's going on here. So, yeah, we can mention names, but we have to be honest. I believe that you can trust, you can have any religion you want in the world. I'm a theist. I believe in a higher power. We can't be here without some creative force. But don't hurt people. Don't hurt people whatsoever. Whether you're a human being or whether you believe in a certain religion, you cannot dictate to other people what's right and what is wrong about that religion. You can have your opinion, but at the end of the day, as long as you're not hurting people and you believe in your God, that's fine. But don't hurt people. Don't hurt people.
Craig, I have a question for you myself. Do you think it's possible for someone to access this technology from a computer and access this technology that is latent in satellites?
I think anything's possible these days. If you can apply yourself to creating this type of technology. I live in a wonderful 3-bedroom penthouse condo in Sydney with incredible views over Sydney Harbour, and the number of times I've come in and had my computer, people have been into my computer, no matter, of course, because transmission happens through my eyes, I can change the password many times, and people go in and open up my emails. I come into my home, and the code for my alarm has been entered, and somebody has come into my home. I think this nefarious technology is heavily, the people who are heavily monitored, like me, we go through an enormous amount of, how can I say, we just go through an enormous amount. We're followed around the world everywhere, and literally by satellite relay back to where this operation starts. It will be divulged one day. Someone will step up and say, enough of this. I'm too scared about what's going to happen potentially to my children or grandchildren in the future. Someone hopefully will step up. So in answer to your question, Frank, yes, I believe anything is possible with computers via satellite.
Okay, and I'd just like to say we're coming up on the top of the hour. I wanted to invite you both back to our conference call. And if you have a pen, just write these numbers down. Access the call number itself is 515-604-9715, and the access code is 708922. Okay, guys, continue. Do you have any? Did you miss a number?
repeat it, 515-604-9715. And the access code is 708922.
Fantastic. Love to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, and you can continue. Go right ahead.
David, would you like to say anything, mate?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of my main talking points for this subject. I always use Scientology and the Harvey Weinstein case. They're the two most topical discussion points. And then there's a couple of TED Talks that a caller or two ago might benefit from. There's one from a Professor Miguel Nicolelis titled Brain-to-Brain Communication, How We Achieved It. It covers the famous kick before, I think it was the 2014 World Cup soccer match, where ahead of the World Cup match, they assembled about 160 scientists, medical doctors, and robotics engineers to build an exoskeleton for a guy who had been in a motorcycle accident. That also gave him the ability to regain the sensation of touch. And that's kind of the thrust of what we're talking about here. In
like
a real,
Avatar.
Like Avatar. That's you mentioned James Cameron. If there's anyone in the world that would know some information about that, it's the people who were his technical support people in building Avatar. That's exactly what this topic is about. It's merging of human beings with machines and machines with human beings. So it's a mature technology. It's just the mainstream public hasn't been clued into it so much. It's not a main topic of a discussion.
Okay, guys, we're coming up on the top of the hour. And as I said, I hope to see you over on the conference call. I'd like to say good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.
Is the Second Amendment your line in the sand? Is the United States Constitution important to you? Are you worried about gun confiscation? You need to join us for free at gunconfiscation.com. At gunconfiscation.com, you will meet like-minded patriots, get the latest Second Amendment news, and find anything you need to prepare for gun confiscation. Visit gunconfiscation.com today. That's gunconfiscation.com. Which side are you on?
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right, all the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.